Hey students, we are on I-4 today, which is interpreting functions. How exciting. Alright, so for interpreting functions you do need a glue in, so you're going to go ahead once you get that glue in. Go ahead and just glue that whole thing in. Shouldn't need to trim it too much, hopefully. There we go. Alright, so go ahead and just glue that whole thing in underneath the I-4, interpreting functions. Alright, and today is going to be all about looking at these functions in real-world contexts and making sure that we're understanding kind of like what the x and the y, what's our input, our output, our domain, our range, all the things. It's going to be great. Alright, so if you need to pause that to get that in. And then as we work today, I'm going to use probably three colored pencils. So I'm going to use orange, blue, and green. Because that's what I got right here. So having to stop the video. Did it. Alright, here we go with the first one. So if you need to pause right now, grab your colored pencils, get this glued in. Please pause. Alright, David's savings for a car. What is our meaning for our graph? What is our big idea here? So when we look at a graph, a couple of things we want to look for. We want to look for the title, which says David's savings for a car. And then we want to look and see what our x and our y is. This is our x axis. It says x right there. It's our weeks. So we're counting weeks. And then here we have our savings and money. So it must be that he's saving money after weeks. So David saves money for a car. So we're talking about money. That part's not really in here. Could be saving, I don't know, lollipops for a car. Okay, so he's saving money for a car, and we're measuring it in weeks, so each week. All right, the next question says, is the function increasing or decreasing? So increasing means it's going up, decreasing means it's going down. And then why? So as I look at my function, is it going up or is it going down? In this case, it is going up. Why is it going up? So it's increasing. You can't read that. There we go. It's increasing because as the weeks go on, he's saving more money. Alright, then we have our domain. Our domain is our x-axis. So at some point, David had to make a decision to save for a car. Okay, so when he made this decision to save for a car, he didn't save for it before. He's now going to start saving. So our domain is our x's, and he's going to keep saving up until the point he can afford that car. So we're going to say our x, because the domain is our x's, is greater than or equal to 0, because at some point he started saving at week 0. He made the decision. Okay, remember our range is our y's. So as I look at my y's, it looks like it's increasing, increasing, increasing. It's going to keep going up, 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 up. It looks like it's starting at 1,400. So y is greater than or equal to 1,400. So $1,400. All right, our next thing here is our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is where it crosses that y-axis, which would be right here, which is 0, 1,400. We want to know, what does that mean? What's the point of that in the real world? No one walks up to you and says, hey, what's your Y-intercept on saving for your car? No, they say, how much money did you set aside when you started? Okay, so David starts with $1,400 saved, or $1,400 saved. Now remember what that means is as you get money, okay, you don't just always start saving for things right away because you don't know if you can afford anything at that point, right? And then after a couple months of living, you're like, oh, hey, there's this $1,400 that we aren't using. It's staying there. It's not doing a whole lot. Or maybe you're getting even more money and you're not using it for rent or you're not using it for groceries. So at that point, you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to take that $1,400 and set it aside. It might not be all the way $1,400. It might just start with like $50, okay? Everyone starts at their levels a little different. David must have really liked to feel like he wanted to make sure emergencies were taken care of, things like that. All right, we're going to find another point on this graph. We're going to just pick a point. I'm going to pick this point because it's a little bit easier to read. So as I look at that point, that would be week, this is 4, 6, so this would be 5, and it's 1,800. So 5, 1,800. And what that would mean is that after 5 weeks, David has saved a total of $1,800, which again sounds like a lot, but after 5 weeks, he's only saved $400 more. Okay, so 400 divided by 5, that's like, what, 80 bucks? 75 bucks? 80 bucks a week. So each week, $80 he's setting aside. About. Depending on the week. Some weeks we can save more. Some weeks our car breaks down and we cry. And then we spend money. Alright, here we go with the next one. We have car value. Alright, so in this one we're talking about a car value. We're going to take all the idea here, look at what we're given. It looks like we have 2, 4, 6, 8. It's counting by twos. This is time in years. So after 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years. And then our y-axis here, we have our value of our car in thousands of dollars. So even though it says 5, that 5 really represents $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. All right. So what is happening? What is our meaning of the graph, or what is this graph showing? The graph is showing the car value, or the value of the car, in dollars over years. All right, is the function increasing or decreasing? So is it going up or is it going down, and why? Okay, in this case, it is decreasing. Okay, as the car gets older, usually we drive it more, maybe something gets wrong with it, you get an oil change at a place that you shouldn't have. Okay, but as the car gets older, the value decreases. How much it's worth decreases, or value goes down. I was going to write goes. The value goes down. Okay, until a certain point, and then at some point, someone somewhere decides like, oh my God, that's a collector car. Or like, oh, my grandpa used to drive that car. I'll pay a lot of money for it. Okay. But that's usually really rare, and you gotta like really take care of that car. Okay, so most cars, when you buy them out of the lot, as soon as that first 2 years, look how much down that goes, a lot. Okay, and then it keeps going down, and then eventually at some point you have like 200,000 miles on it. At that point, it's worth like $200, and then you just keep driving it. AKA, that's what happened to my car. And then I had to get a new one. The worst. All right, domain. Domain, remember, is our x. I should have color coded that on our first, sorry. So our domain, we're starting here, and we're going on our x. So again, on this one, the car at some point was brand new. We can't go back in time and say, oh, this car was worth $60,000 2 years before it was even made. It's worth nothing because it's not made yet. So our domain has to be bigger than or equal to 0. At some point, once we know when this car has been totaled or died, we could like give that the end cap saying, oh, it only made it to 12 years. But right now, we just know it's bigger than or equal to 0. Okay, as I look at my range is my y. So I'm looking at that y-axis. And I'm looking to see it's going to keep going down, 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 down. We could draw like an arrow on this if it's going to help us. I think it's going down. It'll slowly eventually get down to the point where it's like $200. Mine is like after 6 years it's $200, but I don't know. This one, somebody must have taken good care of it. Okay, but as I go up, 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 remember we can't go back in the past before it was made. So I'm going to cap that off at, I don't know, that looks to me like 31,000, maybe 32,000. So y is less than or equal to 32,000. Or we can say 32 in this case. Okay, but then we have to imagine, though, this is going to keep going down, 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 but at some point, the car is just worth nothing. Okay, so it does actually have an ending point, which is at 0. All right, and then we have our y-intercept, which is going to be on that range idea. Now when we do range, we'll use those numbers that are given there. Our y-intercept we'll talk about with a meaning. So our y-intercept is at 0 for our x and then 32 for our y. And when we talk about that meaning of that, we're going to say when you buy the car or when the car was made, it's worth or it's valued at, and that's our 32. Now we're going to say $32. The car's $32 on it. I want to buy that car. Just kidding, that's probably just a toy car. Remember, this is in thousands, so this is the part where we'll do 32,000 when we talk about that meaning. Alright, and then we're just going to pick another point on this graph. Alright, I'm going to pick, let's pick 8. So at 8, that's about maybe 9-ish, maybe 8-ish. Okay, so my point I'm going to say is 8, 9. And what that means is after 8 years of owning the car, or after 8 years since the car was made, the car is worth and now this time it's just 9. So again, it's not the car is worth $9. Okay, car is worth $9,000. So remember that y is measured in thousands. All right, we got one more today. Meaning of our graph. Again, we're going to take a look at this. We have our height of our golf ball, distance from tee. Tee is that little thing that the golf ball sits on. They whack it off that with the club. Okay, and it's measured in yards. And then we have our height in feet. Okay, so this is saying the height of a golf ball after you hit it. Because here's the tee, you're at the tee, and then you hit the golf ball, it goes up, and then it hits back down. So this is the height of a golf ball after being hit. Is the function increasing or decreasing, and why? So as I think about this, it's increasing. It's going up, 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 up. But once it hits that top part, it goes down, 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 down. So it's doing both. Okay? When you hit the golf ball, it goes up. But then eventually gravity takes over. And gravity brings it back down to Earth. All right, we have our domain, which again is our x-axis. So as I look at my domain, I'm thinking about where it's going to go left to right. So it starts off 0 distance from the tee, meaning it's on the tee. So it can't go past that tee, really, that we're talking about as far as height goes. Can't go into the ground more. So it's going to be 0 is less than or equal to our x. And then for just this one shot, the shot gets how far? It gets 120 yards. Okay, our range is our y. So again, I'm looking up and down. And when we talk about height of a golf ball, we're starting on the ground at 0. So it's between 0, and then what's the highest it gets? It doesn't keep going up and up and up into outer space. At some point it stops. So we have to estimate that's, so 120, 160, so middle is 140. So like 150-ish, 152-ish. I'm going to go with 150. All right, so as we look at this with our x-intercepts, our x-intercepts are where it crosses our x-axis, so it'll be here and here. And we're talking about distance from the tee. So we have 0, 0, and we have 0, 120. And 0 represents our height. Oh, 120, 0. Sorry. 0 represents that height, the second number. So the ball's on the ground because it's 0 feet tall at 0. So the ball is on the ground at 0 yards, so at the beginning, and it lands on the ground, or lands back on the ground at 120 yards. All right, and then we have our y-intercept, which is on that y-axis, which again is 0, 0. So what does that mean in this context? Okay, well, we look at the y. Y is talking about, I don't know, how tall it is and how far away we are from the tee. Okay, so the ball starts on the tee. It hasn't moved anywhere yet, hasn't gone past our x, it's right on that tee. Alright, our last one here is the vertex. Remember that vertex is that maximum or that minimum. So as we look at that vertex, it's right about here. In this case, it's a maximum. We're looking at our x and our y, so we have 40, 80, so middle would be 60. So we have 60, and then we said that was about 150. So we're going to say the ball reaches, now is this a maximum or a minimum? It's the top, so that would be a maximum. So it reaches a max height, 150, and that's measured in feet, so 150 feet, after how many yards? 60, and that's our yards. Alright, it was kind of a lot to write, so make sure that you take time to pause, go back, fill in the parts that you missed, because this is so important. Alright, you got it.